signal processing. I have been assigned the task of taking class on digital signal processing, and probably in section A, the other half of digital signal processing probably will be taken up by Professor Vishwajit Bhattacharya. So in my part, we have the preliminaries and then some transform, Z transform, discrete time Fourier transform, etc. Later, we will move on to the design of a particular type of digital filters. All right. Now, you are aware of my name, Shugato Munshi. The initials are SGM. Because there is another colleague of ours whose initials are SM, my initials are SGM, to distinguish myself from that other faculty member. So first of all, the textbooks that you may consider is one. First, I have named Digital Signal Processing by Rawat. You have come across probably the book on Signals and Systems by Rawat. This is a different book, Digital Signal Processing. But let me also point out that some portion of my part, the initial portion of my part, you can also find the content in Signals and Systems by Rawat. All right, although distinctly different book on digital signal processing by Rawat exists. So this book, for those who have come across the book by Rawat on signals and systems, know the approach of Rawat. The theory is more or less all right, except with a few aberrations, and there are several problems there. So in that way, it's very helpful. Now, so both for theory, understanding the theory as well as for the purpose of exam, the book by Rawat is excellent. Second book that I have named is Digital Signal Processing by Proakis and Manolakis. This is the best possible book, in my opinion, on digital signal processing. Proakis and Manolakis. All these books are available as Indian editions. Just 1 minute. Third one is a very concise book by Johnson. And there are a couple of other books by Indian authors. You may consult them, but they are not self-sufficient. But for problems, you may consult them. Digital Signal Processing by Ramesh Babu and Digital Signal Processing by Salivahanan, Vallabharaj and Ganapriya. Now remember that when I'll take this class, I will first explain, then I'll give you ample time to write down the content. So don't hurry. Try to understand what I am saying. Then I'll give you sufficient time to copy the content of the material. First, write down the names of these textbooks. I don't know how many copies of Rawat's book are there in the library, but Proakis and Manolakis, Johnson, and the other books, there are several copies. Rawat's book is published by Oxford University Press. DSP by Proakis and Manolakis probably is by Pearson. Introduction to DSP that was published by Prentice Hall, etc. Prentice Hall India, like that. Oh, there's a repetition. Sorry. Fifth one is probably published by Tata McGrail. Probably. Have you copied it?
Yes,
Now,
sir.
the name is digital signal processing of this subject. The name could well have been discrete time signal processing. Instead of digital signal processing, it could well have been discrete time signal processing. Because discrete time signal is a particular variety of digital signal. Digital signal is a particular variety of discrete time signal. I have not named another important book because it's not very of fundamental nature. It's required for higher studies. The book by Oppenheim and Schaeffer, Oppenheim, Schaeffer, and Bach. The previous editions had the name digital signal processing, and the current edition bears the name discrete time signal processing. So that is because digital signals are a particular variety of discrete time signals. What are discrete time signals? A discrete time signal is one that is defined only at this discrete instance of time, not for a continuum of time. All right. Only at specific instance of time the signal is defined. For other, it's not defined. The digital signal is a particular variety of discrete time signal. Discrete time signal, I have tried to pictorially depict one arbitrarily chosen discrete time signal. So these are the, just see here, say if this instant is T1, this is T2, this is T3, this is T4, this is T5, this is T6. These are the instants at which the signal is defined, x tilde t. All right. And these are the values assumed, indicated by these arrows. So the values assumed, so these are the instants where the signal is defined. It's not defined in between those two instants. It's non-defined, not defined in between those two instants, and hence for the others. So it's not defined for a continuous time. It's not defined for a continuum of time. So the values assumed by the discrete time signal, they are called samples. Hence, another name for the discrete time signal is sample data signal. Why are these values called samples? What may be the reason? This is because the vast majority of useful signals that you come across in your daily life, in science, engineering, and also in your daily life, those signals are analog signals or continuous time signals. Discrete time signals are obtained simply by sampling those analog signals. Sampling means taking note of the values assumed by the analog signal at discrete instance of time. Therefore, from that analog signal, by sampling, you get a discrete time signal or sample data signal. Hence, the values that you get for the discrete time signal, they are nothing but values of the analog signal at those instants. So these instances are called sampling instance. All right. These instances are the sampling instance. Say T1, T2, T3, T4, T5, T6. These are the sampling instance. I have not yet mentioned about whether these samples, they are distanced uniformly in type or not. The time difference between T2 and T3, the time difference between T3 and T4, difference between T4 and T5, these time differences I have not mentioned yet about whether they are equal or not. In general, they will be unequal. All right. But as a particular case, the case that we will consider, all these samples, they will be uniformly spaced in time. Hence, they are called uniformly sampled signal. Uniformly distanced in time. Is it done? So this is a case of uniformly sampled signal. Let me enlarge it. Just see that the samples occur at t equal to 0, minus tau, plus 2 tau, plus 3 tau. So these are the instances at which the signal, the discrete time signal is defined. Therefore, the sampling instants are 0 tau, minus tau, 2 tau, 3 tau, etc., 4 tau. Therefore, the samples are uniformly distanced in time. So this is a case of uniformly sampled signal. All right, or periodically sampled signal. That name is also there. Tau is called the sampling period or sampling interval. Tau, it is known as the sampling period or sampling interval. The reciprocal of tau, tau has the dimension of time. The reciprocal of tau, which has the dimension of frequency, I'll represent that by Fs. It is called the sampling frequency or sampling rate. Sampling frequency or sampling rate. So sampling frequency or sampling rate, Fs, which is the reciprocal of tau, it can be expressed in hertz, all right, or samples per second, like that. Obviously, there will be other units, kilohertz, megahertz, etc. So that is called sampling rate or sampling frequency. Sampling frequency or sampling rate, Fs. Now, I have pointed out that digital signals, they constitute a particular type of discrete time signals. So what are the distinctive features or distinguishing features of digital signals compared to the other varieties of discrete time signals? What are the distinctive features? There are two distinctive features. First is, now one thing is clear, that digital signals being a particular variety of discrete time signals, the samples will be uniformly spaced in time. All right, sorry. The samples will, I mean, the values will occur at discrete instants of time. We say that there is a quantization in time. For discrete time signals, for all discrete time signals, there is a quantization in time. For digital signals, compared to the other members of this class of discrete time signals, not only are they quantized in time, but they are also quantized in magnitude or amplitude. That means not only will they occur, will they be defined at discrete instants of time, but the values that they will be able to take on, those values will not be a continuum of values. They can take on a discrete set of values, one out of a several possible discrete values. So that is one of the distinctive features of digital signal. All right. Recall that in case of ADC, you have studied ADC. The output of the ADC, how is it represented? It's represented in terms of binary code. So that is the second feature. Digital signals, they are coded in terms of binary numbers. And you have also learned that in ADC, the output of the ADC, it can assume, what does the output of the ADC represent? It represents a decimal fraction, all right, which is the ratio of the input signal to some reference value, the full scale value. So those values will be discrete values. As for example, for a unipolar ADC, what will happen? Say if it is a 3-bit unipolar ADC, what are the values that the output can take on 000, 001, 010, like that. 000, it's 011, it will represent a decimal fraction that will represent the ratio of the output of the ADC, the input of the ADC to the full scale value of the ADC. So it is a discrete time, discrete magnitude signal. That's what I have written down here, whatever I have narrated. And second specific feature is that the sample values are coded in terms of binary numbers. There are different types of codes that are available. Therefore, I'll allow you to write down. Therefore, just see here that these are the quantization levels. They are called quantization levels. So here the digital signal is allowed to take on values of 0, Q, twice Q, 3Q, 4Q, 5Q, etc. The value of Q will depend on the number of bits and the full scale range of the ADC. So the value of the digital signal can be nothing between 0 and Q. It can be nothing between Q and 2Q. No value is allowed between 2Q and 3Q. Only these values can be allowed. 0, Q, 2Q, 3Q. So thus see here that these are the values that the samples of the digital signal are taking on. Of course, in the way of generation, the digital signal may have value in between these two quantization levels, but it will be rounding off. There is a rounding off mechanism by which it will be rounded off to the nearest integer or truncated. All right, that happens in the ADC inherently. So in the ADC, there is provision for sampling, provision for quantization, provision for rounding off or truncation. There are not individual units for doing these tasks, but the ADC as a whole acts to do these operations. All right. Write down. That is an arbitrarily chosen example. Have you drawn it?
Yes.
Now with this introduction, come to the block diagram representation, a simplified block diagram representation of a typical digital signal processing system. I am calling it a simplified block diagram representation because a couple of more blocks are to be added to the system. Unless we proceed with the theory, we cannot understand why these extra blocks are to be added. Hence, after we complete the corresponding theory, we understand what type of extra blocks are to be added to the system to make it more versatile. To start with, this is the complete, simplified, complete digital signal processing system. The signals that we process, I have pointed out that the vast majority of signals that you come across are analog signals or continuous time signals. The first step will be digitization of the analog signal. You want to process the analog signal by digital signal processing systems. So first of all, this analog signal is to be converted into a digital signal. So that's why that analog to digital converter is there. Now, digital signal, two things can happen. First of all, now this dotted line, don't put it here. This dotted line, put it there. All right, connect it to this point. All right, don't take it to the digital signal processor right at this moment. Connect it here. Plus draw it, then I'll proceed. So from here, a dotted line goes to the digital memory. That connection is not there. So because you have taken the dotted line to this point, what is meant is that after the analog signal is digitized, two things can happen. That digitized signal is simply processed by a digital signal processor. So digital signal processor, it implements some numerical algorithm. Can be just integrating or differentiating, all right, or filtering, can be low pass filtering, high pass filtering, or band pass filtering, or band stop filtering, can be obtaining the Fourier transform of the analog signal from the information available with the digital signal. So many things can happen. So after processing, the digital signal can be taken to the digital memory, all right. Or it can be right way converted into an analog signal and used for suitable purposes, all right. Else, after digitization, the digital signal can be kept stored in digital memory. Digital memory is nothing but some sort of memory device for storing digital signals. So why this digital signal has to be stored in digital memory as a second option? The situation, the application can be such that first of all, the digital signal is stored in digital memory, and at some later instant of time, what is done? The signal samples are retrieved from this digital memory and they are processed. So that is called offline signal processing. When after digitization, we process the signal and then convert it into an analog signal, the process signal, that is called online signal processing. And when the digital signal is kept stored in digital memory and at a later instant of time, it is processed by the digital signal processor, it is called offline signal processing. Third option is that after processing, the digital signal can be stored in digital memory so that it can be used at some later instant of time. So these are the three possibilities. Have you drawn it?
Yes.
Sir.
What I have narrated is written down here. DFT stands for discrete Fourier transform. Discrete Fourier transform will be covered in the other part of the subject. Remember that right now, I mean, as the syllabus of GATE stands in the signals and systems domain, what you have studied in the second year, that is there, and a part of digital signal processing that is covered in this half, covered by me, that is there in the signals and systems syllabus of GATE. Now, point is, why would you like to process the analog signals digitally? Do you have any idea? No. I understand your point, but my question is, why at all the computer has to be brought in? Say, if you think about filtering, you have studied about analog filters. So filtering can be done. All right, integrated differentiator circuits are also there.
Sir, analog signals cannot be stored.
Who said analog signals cannot be stored?
Sir, yeah.
So before this digital era, what was the situation? Analog signals were not stored.
I'm not sure, sir.
Sir, for
There are
better
several
comparison,
points. Yes. There are several points that you must understand. First is improved accuracy. Why do I say that it should be, the accuracy will be better if you process it digitally? Because just think about analog filters, that will do. Analog filters are built around op-amps, all right, with resistance, capacitance, etc., to constitute a circuit for implementing the filtering operation. Now, say you have designed the analog filter and come up with some resistance values, say of 1.1 kilo ohm and a capacitance value of 1 microfarad. When you procure these components, if you procure a component of 1.1 kilo ohm, it will not guarantee the value will be exactly 1.1 kilo ohm. Say when 1.1 kilo ohm resistances are measured by manufactured by some manufacturer in bunches, if you collect bunches of sub 1.1 kilo ohm and a certain wattage identical resistors, if you go on measuring, the values will there will be a dispersion of the values about a mean. Some will have a value of 1.08 kilo ohm. Some will have a value of 1.15 kilo ohm. Some will have a value of 1.08 kilo ohm, like that. So it's very difficult to get exactly 1.1 kilo ohm. Similar is the case for 1 microfarad capacitor. Understood? Therefore, When this is the situation, if you have designed the circuit and obtained a value of 1.1 kilo ohm and capacitance of 1 microfarad, but the actual resistance that you are using, it's slightly different from 1.1 kilo ohm. It's also slightly different for the capacitor also, slightly different from 1 microfarad. But when you are implementing the filter digitally, you are using some software. Well, it's true that hardware-based digital filters are also in use. But here, in case of digital implementation, what will happen? The accuracy will depend only on the number of bits, nothing else. Therefore, number of bits, there is no question of changing. It cannot be different. If you decide that you will be implementing the system using an 8-bit system, it's 8-bit system. It cannot be 8.5 bit. It cannot be 9-bit. All right. So that is first part of the story. Second part of the story is that perfect reproducibility. Because of the reason that I have mentioned regarding manufacturing tolerance. What is manufacturing tolerance? The very fact that 4.7 kilo ohm resistances, whatever may be the value of the resistances, the actual values of resistances measured to the rating that I have mentioned, desired rating, they are not exactly equal, but there is a dispersion. Therefore, if you build several units, with the same specification of resistance and capacitance, there will be slight deviation. Slight deviation means it's not reproducible. But in case of digital systems, that is not the situation. There is reproducibility of the performance from unit to unit. All right, identical performance from unit to unit. So that is second part of the story. Thirdly, in case of analog systems, with temperature and age, the component values will change. All right, that will, because here in case of hardware, in case of digital signal processing, because you are using a software, there is no question of drift in performance with temperature and age. Next point is greater flexibility. Say here in case of analog filters, you have implemented a band stop followed by, say, a high pass filter or low pass filter due to some reason. Now, if you want to change due to some reason from band plus low pass filter to band plus a low pass filter with a different cutoff frequency, the component values of the low pass filter are to be changed. But in case of digital filter, it is simply a change in the program. To introduce this change, to introduce a change in the cutoff frequency of a certain section of the filter, merely a change in the program, some values, that will be sufficient. So flexibility is greater, can be programmed and reprogrammed to perform variety of functions without modifying hardware. Superior performance. DSP can be, if you remember, while comparing the analog and digital systems, I have mentioned about replacing analog filters by digital filters, and about replacing integrators and differentiators by digital integrators and differentiators. I have intentionally avoided the task of determining the Fourier transform. If you want to use an analog system to determine the Fourier transform of an analog signal, that is very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. There will be error, etc. But with digital signal processing tools, you can easily do that by using numerical algorithms. DFT is a numerical algorithm for obtaining the Fourier transform of an analog signal using digital means, using digital signal processing. Similarly, there are other things. As for example, you know that in case of analog systems, in case of analog filters, it is desired that the phase characteristic should be linear. But with analog systems, it's very difficult to implement a filter with linear phase characteristic. This is not the situation with digital filters. you can implement a digital filter with exactly linear phase characteristic. Similarly, there are other complicated algorithms for filtering. As for example, adaptive filtering is there. What is adaptive filtering? Depending on the nature of the signal that is coming in, the filter on its own changes its characteristic, changes its order, or changes its, what should I say, cutoff frequency, corner frequencies. That type of a system is very difficult to implement using analog filters. All right. That type can be implemented readily using digital signal processing systems. So these are the reasons. Okay. Let's write down. This hash that I have given here, it means number of bits. Digital signal processing. DSP stands for digital signal processing. Some of you pointed out that it can be stored. That is in some sense partly correct, because the storing now has become a very easier task. But it's not that analog signals couldn't be stored. Remember that despite all these, what should I say, merits of digital signal processing, what were the problems? Right at the beginning of this digital era, what were the problems with this digital signal processing? Firstly, the cost was high. Secondly, the modules for digital signal processing, they were not very compact. Just try to think about a computer, large computer, implementing a digital signal processing work. All right, they were not very compact. Thirdly, say if you consider an analog filter and its digital filter equivalent, which one is faster? Obviously, the analog filter, that is faster. Digital filter, because it will involve some computation, it will be slower. So that was the problem with digital signal processing tasks right at the beginning of the digital era. But with passage of time, what happened? With the rapid stride in the domain of solid-state electronics, we have come up with very compact processors, very fast processors. Not only that, the computation, the fast processors means the computation time is much, much smaller. So this is important whenever a ADC is to be used in the feedback path of a control system. This phenomenon is very important thing, that computational delay has become very, very small. If there were some delay, then presence of a delay element in the feedback path would have created some problem. That thing you will study in some other course in your control system, etc. All right. But the conversion delay, computational delay, etc., those have decreased. There would have been again some time consumed by the analog to digital conversion process. Now we have come up with fast processors, fast ADCs also. So that has changed the scenario completely. That's what I've written down here. So this is not a merit. The previous ones were merit. In spite of those merits, digital signal processing had some drawbacks, which have been overcome by tremendous advancements in electronics industry. That's what I mean here. Next thing that I'm interested in, you have learned a lot of transforms, a lot of maneuvering techniques for continuous time signals. Now, discrete time signals, the way that I have depicted them, can you use those transformation techniques for the discrete time signals? Say if you want to apply Fourier transform, if you want to apply Laplace transform, how will you do that for a discrete time signal? Is it possible? For that to be possible, for the application of transforms, etc., to be possible, we must develop a continuous time mathematical model for the discrete time signal. Laplace transform will operate only on functions of time in case of signal processing, of course. functions of time. Fourier transform will operate only on functions of time. But the discrete time signal, how will you represent them as functions of time? It's not possible. So it's not apparently possible. What I am going to do now is to search for some continuous time mathematical model for the discrete time signal so we can apply those transformation techniques. Thus, we start discussing about the sampling process. We will confine our attention to uniform sampling, all right, or periodic sampling. Yes,
Sir,
please.
will you please show me a slide upper one, above one? Example I have not written. Yeah, this one.
Okay,
This one.
okay.
Yes, sir, done. Thank you.
Okay. Although multi-rate sampling means the sampling rate is changing with time. So that type of sampling also has important application for our purpose. Our attention will be confined to uniform sampling or periodic sampling. So we can visualize the process of uniform sampling as if we have an analog signal and there is a switch here. Remember that no such switch is used by the ADC. But here we are trying to have a mathematical treatment of the situation. So say this switch, it closes periodically at regular intervals of tau units of time. And whenever it closes, it remains closed for an infinitesimally small duration of time and opens. That means it closes instantly and then opens. If that is the case, what will be there at the output of the switch? If this is the nature of the analog signal that I have shown, that will be the nature of the output of this switch, x at t. All right. So analog signal is the input to this switch. The output is its uniformly sampled version. Output is the uniformly sampled version. Have you done it? Sampling interval is tau.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Tau is the sampling interval or sampling period, and its reciprocal is the sampling rate or sampling frequency. Have you written it?
Yes, sir.
Now, a more realistic case will be to have a switch that closes periodically at intervals of tau units of time, and whenever it closes, it will remain closed for a finite duration delta less than tau, and then open again. Do you understand? It closes periodically. This switch closes periodically at intervals of tau units of time, and whenever it closes, it remains closed for delta units of time, delta being less than tau, and then opens again. If that is the case, don't write here ideal sampler, write here finite pulse width sampler. This is not ideal sampler. Finite pulse width sampler. All right. So what will be the output under such a condition? This will be the nature of the output corresponding to that waveform. If this is the analog signal, the output here will be, I am right here xp. xp will be there. So xp hat t. This will be the nature. Do you agree? So say the switch closes here. It closes here. So the analog signal appears at the output. The switch remains closed for this delta duration. Over that delta duration, the analog signal changes to a certain extent, and then the switch opens. So what, we don't have any signal here at the output. In this way, it will continue. So under such a condition, this xp hat t, it will consist of pulses with curved tops, whose tops are not flat, curved tops. So right here, finite pulse width sampler. And here, xp hat t. Now we will model this uniform sampling process as pulse amplitude modulation. Pulse amplitude modulation is nothing but a modulation technique where a train of rectangular pulses is multiplied with the signal that is to be modulated. So here the signal that is to be modulated is the analog signal xt. It will be clear to you why am I considering pulse amplitude modulator. If you multiply xt with a train of rectangular pulses of unit height and time period tau, what will be the nature of the product? Just try to visualize. If we multiply this signal xt with a train of rectangular pulses of height, unity, and time period tau, what will be the nature of the product? Won't it be same as this one? This is nothing but multiplication of xt with a train of rectangular pulses of unit height multiplied by with time period tau. এই আঁকাটা হয়ে গেছে?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
written it. So that is the situation. PT is a train of rectangular pulses, periodic train of rectangular pulses with unit height and time period is tau. So output will be same as that output of the finite pulse width sampler. But remember that our original uniformly sampled signal, it consists of vertical lines. Under what condition will this xp hat t become x hat t? Under what condition will xp hat t consist of only vertical lines? Obviously, when delta is very small. Anyway. Tau is time period of unit pulse train, which is the sampling period, and delta is the pulse width, which is sampling duration. Just see here on the right hand side, it's written. Tau is the time period of the unit pulse train, which is the sampling period, and delta is the pulse width. That may be called the sampling duration. ডান দিকের এটা দেখতে পাচ্ছ তো?
Yes, sir.
হয়েছে?
Yes, sir.
This is the situation. Pictorially. And the bottom one is this product of xt and pt. Same as the output of the finite pulse width sampler. Now, from your knowledge on signals and systems, you know that this pulse train, can't it be represented by a sum of shifted step signals? Sum of shifted unit step signals? You can do that easily, isn't it? This pulse train. For example, that pulse will be ut minus ut minus delta plus ut minus tau, ut minus tau minus delta. That pulse will be included. ut minus 2 tau minus u2 minus tau minus delta. Third pulse will get included. In this way, you will be able to express PT as a sum of shifted step signals, time shifted step signals. If you do that, then what will happen? XP hat t will become xt into that summation of step signals, time shifted step signals. So this is how PT can be represented. ut minus k tau minus ut minus k tau minus delta. The summation extends from k equal to minus infinity to plus infinity. K takes on integer values of 0, plus minus 1, plus minus 2, plus minus 3, etc. Therefore, xp hat t is xt into p, means xt into this summation. Sorry. Now, xp hat t, I have shown that it consists of pulses with curved tops. Under what condition will these curved tops become flat? Under what condition will these curved tops become flat?
When tau becomes very small,
Duration is very small. Delta duration
delta becomes
Compared to what?
compared to
tau.
Not really. Delta is very small means if delta is so small that over each duration delta, the signal xt does not change much. Under that condition, xp hat t will become a train of rectangular pulses. Delta is so small that over delta, xt does not change appreciably. Here what is happening over each duration delta, xt is changing appreciably, the analog signal is changing appreciably. That's why you are having these pulses with curved tops. But if delta is so small that the analog signal does not change appreciably over each such duration delta, then only the signal will become, xp hat t will become a flat topped pulse signal, pulse trains. When will that occur? When delta is very small compared to the smallest time constant of the system that has generated xt. Under that condition, such a thing will happen. This is the condition. If sampling duration delta is very small compared to smallest time constant of the continuous time system that has generated xt, then xp hat t can be approximated by a sequence of flat top pulses. Whether the analog signal will change appreciably over delta, that is guaranteed, that depends on what is the time constant, smallest time constant of the continuous time system that generates xt. The analog signal has nothing to do with tau, remember that. So even if delta is very small compared to tau, but the situation is such, the analog signal varies over the small duration delta, then it will not be a flat top pulse signal. So this is the situation. Under such a condition, xp hat t will become a train of flat-topped pulses. If it is a train of flat-top pulses, how will that expression change? When such is the situation, over t equal to 0 to delta, it is x0. Over t equal to tau plus delta, it will be x tau. Over t equal to 2 tau plus delta, it will be x2 tau. Over t equal to minus tau plus delta, it will be x minus tau, like that. So this will be the situation, what I've written down here. Assign different values to k and check this fact. I have narrated it. Over t equal to 0 to t equal to delta, xp hat t will be x0. And for the remaining portion of that span, t equal to 0 to t equal to tau, over the remaining portion, it will be 0. In this way, it will continue. Then how will that expression for xp hat t change? The compact expression. Just try to realize how will you represent this waveform. How will you represent this waveform in terms of step signals? this waveform in terms of step signals.
Sir, step signals with different magnitude,
Yes, and delayed in time.
delayed in time.
But
Yes.
what will be the exact case? What will be
So
the exact expression?
We will put that x tau k tau within the summation.
X
Yes,
K
yes,
tau
exactly.
tau.
Right, very good. Right. Have you written down? This will be the expression then. Now in this expression, if you take the Laplace transform of both sides, the left-hand side, according to the convention that we use, we'll represent that by capital XP hat S. And right-hand side, you can take the Laplace transform operator inside. So what will happen? Remember, the Laplace transform operator will operate only on those terms that contain t. Laplace transform operator will not act on terms that contain only tau. T is absent. Only in terms where small t is there, the Laplace transform operator will act. Therefore, if you take the Laplace transform of both sides, and if you right hand side of Laplace transform is Laplace transform of this summation, you can take the Laplace transform operator inside because xk tau, it is a constant. So the Laplace transform operator xk tau will appear as a constant. Therefore, it's xk tau times the Laplace transform of this expression. And that Laplace transform is 1 minus e to the power minus delta s by delta s into e to the power minus k tau s. Just check. That 1 minus e to the power minus delta s, if you expand e to the power minus delta s into an infinite series, that will be the expansion within brackets. Now introduce the condition that delta is very small compared to tau. Under such a condition, the terms in higher powers of delta s, they will be absent. So you can truncate this series after the term delta s. So 1 minus 1 plus delta s, it becomes approximately delta s. So this term 1 minus delta s can be approximately represented as delta into s. So if you make the substitution here, what will you get? The left hand side becomes equal to, that is replaced by delta s. S and s, they cancel out. So it will be summation over k equal to minus infinity to plus infinity xk tau e to the power minus k tau s. Delta will be there, some delta will be there, isn't it? Or what? Delta will be there. I am taking out delta. because delta is a constant. Now, if you take the inverse Laplace transform of both sides, see here, on taking the inverse Laplace transform, I have written that xp hat t equal to x hat t, because in the limit as delta is very small compared to tau, what happens? The signal comprising of pulses now becomes a signal consisting of vertical lines. That means xp hat t tends to x hat t under such a condition, if delta is very small compared to tau. So xp hat t is delta times this summation. Now, just one thing you try to understand, what is the role of delta here? Delta actually, it doesn't modify the wave shape. It only has a scaling effect. Because it only has a scaling effect, therefore, the nature of Laplace transform or Fourier transform, whatever you want to apply, that very nature of Laplace transform, the form of expression, that will not change. That will not depend on the value of delta. It is only related to scaling. Because of that, we may consider for practical purposes delta as 1 to suit our convenience. Then x hat t becomes summation over k equal to minus infinity to plus infinity x k tau delta t minus k tau. So it's an impulse modulated waveform. You've written down, I think. Right hand side is a train of impulses with strength of impulse at t equal to k tau equal to delta x k tau. Therefore, this finite pulse width sampler, it can be approximated by an impulse sampler followed by a system with gain delta. What is an impulse sampler? Impulse sampler is one whose input are, the two inputs are xt and a periodic train of unit impulses. If you multiplied xt with a periodic train of unit impulses, what will be the result? The result will be simply this summation over k equal to minus infinity to plus infinity x k tau delta t minus k tau. It follows from the shifting property of impulse function. All right. So here you have that term without delta. Then it's multiplied by delta to get x hat t. Now, this is what I wanted to point out. Because delta is simply multiplied, it has no effect on the wave shape. Therefore, the choice of unit rests on us, and we can take delta as 1 unit. The magnitude of delta will not matter on the nature or form of the transforms. So this is xi hat t. If you select delta as 1, then xi hat t becomes x hat t. It means that for the sake of mathematical maneuvering, we can represent a uniformly sampled signal as a train of impulses such that the strength of the impulse at every sampling instant is the value of the analog signal at that instant. That's what we get. And that is the continuous time mathematical model for the discrete time signal. This is the thing that I wanted to derive. Now, given this continuous time mathematical model for the discrete time signal, you can apply all sorts of transforms. Because you are getting it as a function of t. Unless you get it as a function of t, you couldn't apply the transforms. All right. Delta tau t is a periodic train of impulses. This is delta tau t.
No problem. Sir, can you return to the above drawing? Thank you, sir.
Impulse sampler, impulse modulator, same thing. This was the basic expression. From that, I obtained that last expression. How? By using the shifting property of impulse function. While deriving this expression, I have seen that several students, they make a mistake that either they take xt inside the summation or they write xk tau outside the summation because they have not understood it properly. If there is any problem, please speak out. So let's end here. So when can we meet next? I am not imposing anything on you. Please speak out.
So day after tomorrow.
I can do that. I am free day after tomorrow, but won't there be any problem regarding the submission of assignments? Take the opinion of all of the students. If there is no problem, I have also no problem.
Sir, how about we discuss about it among ourselves and then we shall
Okay,
inform.
it's fine. No problem.